everyone, welcome back. Today, we're diving into something we all experience but can't quite explain: time perception. Ever noticed how time seems to race by when you're having a great day, yet drags on when you're stuck doing something boring? Why does time feel so flexible, even though we know it ticks along steadily? In this episode, we'll explore the psychology and science behind time perception, what makes time feel like it speeds up or slows down, and why our brains play tricks on us when it comes to tracking time. Ready to bend time and dive into the mystery of our mental clocks? Let's get started. First, let's define time perception. Simply put, time perception is our subjective experience of how quickly or slowly time passes. While a clock might tell us that an hour is always 60 minutes, the way we experience those 60 minutes can vary wildly depending on what we're doing, how we're feeling, and even how old we are. Time perception is all about how our brain processes and interprets the passage of time. And here's the twist: our brains don't have a built-in clock ticking away like a watch. Instead, we perceive time through mental cues, sensory experiences, and memory. This means that time perception isn't just about seconds or minutes. It's shaped by how we process information and experience events. Our sense of time is heavily influenced by the brain's attention and memory systems. When we're doing something engaging, our brain processes a lot of new information, which makes time feel like it's moving quickly. On the other hand, when we're bored, fewer new experiences are being processed, so time feels like it's crawling by. One key player here is the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain involved in decision-making and attention. When we're focused and engaged, the prefrontal cortex helps process each moment in a way that feels efficient. In contrast, when we're bored or waiting, the brain has more room to wander, and time seems to stretch out. Another important area is the hippocampus, which is responsible for forming new memories. When we're experiencing a lot of new things, the hippocampus has a lot to encode, making the passage of time feel shorter. But if we're doing something routine, the hippocampus doesn't have much to record, and we perceive time as slower. So why does time seem to fly when we're having fun? This phenomenon is known as temporal compression. When we're fully engaged in something enjoyable, we become so absorbed that we stop monitoring the passage of time. Our brain is busy processing new information and experiences, leaving little mental space to track time accurately. Engaging activities create a flow state, where our sense of self and time temporarily disappear as we're fully immersed in the experience. In these moments, the brain stops focusing on time, and since we're not paying attention to the clock, time seems to slip by faster. Interestingly, this is also why vacations or new experiences feel like they go by quickly at the time, yet feel like they lasted longer when we look back on them. Our brain encodes a lot of memories during novel experiences, so in hindsight, the event feels fuller and longer than it did in the moment. On the flip side, when we're bored or waiting, time seems to drag on forever. When we're doing something monotonous or uninteresting, our brain doesn't have much new information to process. Without novelty or engagement, our attention is more likely to drift, and we become hyper-aware of each passing second. In these situations, we're more likely to count time in a literal sense, constantly checking the clock. This focus on time actually slows our perception of it, creating a sense of time dilation, where minutes feel like hours. Since boredom often involves low mental stimulation, the brain doesn't have much to digest, and time feels sluggish. Have you ever noticed that time seems to speed up as you get older? When we're kids, summer vacations feel endless, but as adults, they seem to fly by. This shift has a lot to do with memory and experience. When we're young, everything is new and unfamiliar, so our brains are constantly encoding new experiences and forming new memories. This process makes time feel full and rich, like we're packing a lot of life into each day. As we grow older, however, life becomes more routine, and we experience fewer new things. With less novelty, our brains don't encode as many distinct memories, which makes time feel like it's passing more quickly in hindsight. This phenomenon is also why we perceive childhood summers as endless, but feel like the years speed up as we age. The less newness we experience, the more compressed time feels in memory. Emotions play a huge role in time perception as well. When we're anxious, scared, or stressed, time often feels slower. This is partly because heightened emotions increase our awareness of each moment, as our brain becomes more alert and focused on our surroundings. For example, during an intense or dangerous situation, like a near-miss car accident, time can feel like it's moving in slow motion. Our brain goes into a heightened state of awareness, encoding every detail to help us remember it later. This phenomenon, sometimes called time dilation, is part of our survival instinct, helping us process and respond to threats. In contrast, positive emotions can make time feel like it's moving faster. Happiness, excitement, and joy often come with feelings of freedom and openness, making us less aware of time. It's one reason why time flies when you're having fun is such a universal experience. Our perception of time isn't just about the present, it's also about how we remember past events. When we look back on a busy, exciting day, it often feels longer in hindsight than a day spent on routine activities. This is because our brain encodes more memories during eventful experiences, creating a denser memory of time. This phenomenon is known as retrospective time perception. When we reflect on events with lots of memories, our brain stretches the experience to match the volume of information we stored. On the other hand, when we look back on an uneventful day, it feels shorter in memory because there aren't as many mental markers. This is also why vacations and holidays feel fuller in hindsight, even though they may have flown by at the time. Our brains remember the novelty of each experience, giving us a richer mental record. So, why does time fly when we're having fun? It turns out our experience of time is shaped by our attention, emotions, memory, and even the novelty of our experiences. Time perception is a mental construct, a unique blend of brain activity and subjective experience that's different for each of us. Understanding how our brains interpret time can help us appreciate the moments that matter and avoid getting caught in the trap of watching the clock. Next time you're doing something enjoyable, take a moment to be fully present. After all, time flies when you're really living it. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who's always saying, "Where did the time go?" Until next time, stay curious and make the most of every moment.